lot, all you do is eat chips, go to bed and watch telly. While all the time underneath you, there's a war going on.
Welcome, everyone, to our second official episode of our journey through Doctor Who. And this time, my good friend Mike Ippolito and I are looking at the very first Doctor Who episode in the modern era, the revival of Doctor Who. So we're running two trains here. We're going to take you through the classic episodes and leapfrog it with the modern.
There's a parallel world, Liz.
There's all sorts of realities around us, different dimensions, billions of parallel universes all stacked up against each other.
So we're talking about the episode Rose from 2005, starring Christopher Eccleston and Billie Piper.
Hello.
This was after a long hiatus.
Some of there's danger, some of there's injustice, and somewhere else the tea's getting cold.
There was a brief 1996 TV movie with Paul McGann playing the 8th Doctor.
You were there. I saw you last night.
It wasn't me.
I don't know who I am, but I know that you know me.
But then we have the Doctor just show back up in a relaunch of the show into British pop culture.
Rob!
If I recall correctly, this was your way in to Doctor Who, right?
Yes, it was the Unquiet Dead, which is a couple episodes into the show.
This girl knows nothing. Now, don't antagonize her. I love a happy medium.
Well, Mike, since we are embarking on the opening of the modern era, which is where you started with Doctor Who, tell us the plot of Rose.
Well, we go into, I guess you would call, would essence be series 27 or season 1 of the new era. I enjoy the title sequence where you get that 360-degree view of the TARDIS. That's kind of one of my favorite openings.
Fantastic.
We lead into where we see a everyday girl that just kind of is working at a shop, kind of very mundane life.
Wilson, I've got the lottery money. Wilson.
Nothing exciting, and then to encounter a classic villain.
If you tell Channing that we're here, the Autons will kill us.
You got me very funny. Right, I've got the joke. Whose idea was this?
And then she has her first encounter with the Doctor.
His arm off.
You know, he says, "I'm the Doctor. What's your name?" She says, "Rose." Says, "Run for your life." You know, so that's
Right.
typical, you know, Doctor humor.
Who's Wilson?
Chief electrician.
Wilson's dead.
So Rose finds out that these Autons are in her world, and she escapes thanks to the help of the Doctor right as the entire retail store blows up.
Nice to meet you, Rose. Run for your life.
And we're introduced the next morning to her mother as well, who will become a major character in the Russell T Davies era.
Well, you've got to find some way of making money. Your job's kaput, and I'm not bailing you out.
That's something that I don't recall really ever happening before, which is seeing a lot about a companion's daily life before that person, you know, starts having adventures with the Doctor. I'm conflicted a little bit about Rose's mom throughout the series. She's not always my favorite character.
As far as the overall character, I think she seems to me is an important part.
Darling, you're breaking up. Listen, I'm just going to do a bit of late night shopping. I'll see you later.
As far as seeing the everyday life of a companion, I think she fits in pretty well.
Rose, don't go out of the house. It's not safe.
She's very shallow, and I know that's part of her
Yeah,
character.
yeah.
I get that that's part of her character. She's sort of shallow and quirky.
They've always got jobs.
Oh, great. The butchers.
Well, it might do you good. That shop was giving you airs and graces.
But it seems like Rose is surrounded by self-absorbed people before the Doctor arrives. Her boyfriend, Mickey, he's very self-absorbed and out to lunch.
You deserve a proper drink. We're going down the pub. You and me, my tree. How about it?
Is there a match on?
No, I'm just thinking about you, babe.
What do you think of Mickey in this opening episode? That, you know, because we're being introduced to him, but wow, what a wimp.
Someone's got to look after this stupid lamps.
Yeah, he seems to be like a to me a background character where he's, to me initially, he doesn't, you know, seem essential and I can do without him.
Can I use your computer?
Yeah. Any excuse to get in the bedroom.
But as we go on, that changes. There's a reference to the Tin Dog, as we'll see in future episodes. Yeah, he's the Tin Dog.
Oh my God, I'm the Tin Dog.
As it goes on, we'll see kind of how he develops and becomes more important.
Mickey Mouse!
You can talk, Captain Cheesecake.
There is a scene in the episode where the doctor shows up at Rose's flat.
What are you doing here?
I live here.
Well, what'd you do that for?
Because I do.
And as I'm watching it, I get the fact that the doctor has traced Auton particles or Auton signals.
Must have got the wrong signal. You're not plastic, mate.
You inside right now.
Because she took the arm home with her.
Yeah.
Which I find really funny. And then there's this moment where she's fixing him tea or coffee or something, and he starts getting attacked by this arm in the other room. What do you think of that level of slapstick comedy, which is, frankly, aside from a few simple falls from Tom Baker and tumbles and,
Hello there.
aside from that, there's not a lot of that, to my mind, in Doctor Who outside of a few Baker shticks and then some of Sylvester McCoy's stuff.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
I don't know. There's something about the way that sequence is filmed. Not bad. It's not badly done. It's just very different. And I didn't know how that played for you.
I found the whole sequence actually quite entertaining. From the beginning to kind of back up where he shows up and the screws come out of the cat door and she opens the door and his face is in there. I found that to be hysterical. And from the time he came in and Rose's mother's kind of hitting on him, he turns around, looks, he goes,
Well, anything could happen.
no, and he walks away. And then it leads right into the hand where it attacks him, and then he kind of throws it off, and then it gets his Rose grabs her face. I found it very funny, the back and forth, and he's trying to use the sonic to try and get it off. I found that very entertaining.
Oh, could have been worse. Look at the ears.
I don't have any problem with the sequence at all. I just bring it up to I guess, acknowledge that was the moment when I was watching it on this rewatch where I realized how different this take on the show was from a production and shooting standpoint than the classic show. That was that was the only time where I jumped back and went, oh yeah, they're really trying new things through a completely new production instinct with this show. It's a 2005 instinct. It's not a 1989 instinct.
Well, come on, Professor. What are we hanging about for?
Unfinished business.
There's this one moment in the episode where Rose is following him back to she doesn't know it's the TARDIS. She's following him as he's going back to the TARDIS with that arm. I don't even remember the exchange exactly, but she's asking him, what's your name again? And he's like, the Doctor. And
The Doctor.
Hello.
The Doctor? And he's like, hello. Like that. Like she just responds back to her name like, hello. And then with seconds later, he's talking about how he can feel the earth moving under him.
The ground beneath our feet is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, and I can feel it.
So he can move between those two very different types of deliveries seamlessly and credibly. I really, really like that about him because, like you said, the intensity that he brings to the performance, which comes through in future episodes, are some of my favorite Doctor Who moments.
I'm going to find my friends, and then I'm going to find you.
So Sarah finds these. Sarah, see, I'm obsessed with Sarah Jane Smith. We're gonna edit that out.
Where's the doctor?
I don't know. But he said you've got to close all the hatchways immediately.
Rose goes online and she starts looking up the Doctor, blue box, all this kind of stuff, because it's after she realizes that, she's talked to him. He told her his name, which was just the Doctor. Then she hears that noise when he's like, go home and live your life, don't worry about this. And she turns around, the box is gone. So she starts looking everything up.
Basically, throughout the show, she wants to get a little more information about the Doctor. Where did he come from? She encounters almost kind of like a conspiracy theorist that has all these historical records of where the Doctor appeared, from the 1800s to the JFK assassination.
Mickey drives her over there and he waits outside in the Volkswagen.
If you've seen him, Rose, we're all in danger.
I know they kind of hint at it in the dialogue, but all of the photographs he shows show Christopher Eccleston. is that to cement this in the minds of new viewers, how this works? Because it seemed like it could have also been an opportunity to say, and he's not always the same guy or something like that. Like, but they have it in the dialogue there a little bit where he says something to the effect of it's a lineage. He thinks it's a heritage. I think he calls it something like it's passed from father to son or something like that.
Yeah.
I'll cut to a clip.
And the title seems to be passed down from father to son. It appears to be an inheritance.
I just felt like it would have been cool to have seen images and photographs. Obviously, you want to see multiples of Eccleston to establish in the minds of the audience, this guy is all over time and space.
Yeah.
But then to also, reinforce the thing where he says, and it's a heritage, even though he has that fact a little wrong, to see some of the previous doctors in photographs, which I thought was a little odd they didn't do that. Did that bother you at all?
No, because I actually, the way I understood it is that, he's a time travel. He can go anywhere in his current form.
Right.
Go back to 1800s or JFK assassination. So for me, it didn't seem necessary to show, past reincarnations of the Doctor, because to me, it's referencing what he's doing now in his current incarnation, that he can travel and be part of, the past of the 1800s, and Civil War and wherever he may go, So to me, it wasn't that vital to have, past incarnations of the Doctor. To me, I interpret it as this is what he's doing in his present right now.
The only reason it bothered me was just that, or not bothered me, but just kind of made me go, huh? Was because if this guy's looking into people who keep showing up in all different historical photographs and records and illustrations and things like that, wouldn't he run into the previous incarnations of the Doctor as similar faces showing up in all these other photographs and stuff, and make those connections as well? Because he clearly understands that on some level there is a connection here, a lineage is what he calls it. And I would think he would find as many of those photographs as he would photographs of Doctor Number 9. That's what I've always found funny about Doctor Who, is that these various versions of the Doctor are bouncing all over time and space. So there's nothing to say that two TARDISes couldn't be in the same place at the same time, just like the DeLoreans in Back to the Future Part 3. I mean, like you could have a TARDIS, materialize somewhere in Paris at the same time that a different version of the Doctor's TARDIS materializes in Utah. Like, there's nothing to say that couldn't happen. So I did find that scene fascinating. I was like, well, I thought there were opportunities there where the scope of it could have been brought out, but maybe that would have confused a new audience. I don't know.
It could have been. I guess if they were focusing on, Eccleston as the modern Doctor, I guess to start going back, it could have possibly confused people. And I see your point where that it could have been an opportunity that they could have used, but chose not to, or didn't consider it at all. But it may have kind of lengthened the explanation. What they were trying to get at. So I think that's why they may have just kept it simple, or I could be completely wrong,
Never ignore a coincidence. Unless you're busy, in which case always ignore a coincidence.
But Mickey, while she's been away, has been pulled into a trash bin that happens to be an Auton. He has been replaced in the car by an Auton version of Mickey.
I fancy a pizza.
Pizza.
That was my only other question in this episode was, wouldn't Rose notice that Mickey is not only acting strangely now, but he looks literally waxen? Like, wouldn't there, and I get verisimilitude and suspension of disbelief and all that stuff, but what did you think of her lack of awareness in that moment?
I would agree with you 100% on that. She gets in the car, and the first thing you do, and you turn and you look to somebody that looks rubbery plastic, you would say, okay, something is wrong here.
Yeah. I just left you.
Yeah. You're going, you can physically see the difference, and as that leads up to where they drive away and they end up in the restaurant, and just by the questions he's asking, I'm going, don't you think something's a little odd here?
But you can trust me, sweetheart, babe.
Darling.
Sugar. Babe, sugar.
Yeah.
I noticed that right away. I'm going, they could have kind of maybe approached that a little differently.
Yeah, it was. I loved the makeup work on him.
Mhm.
I thought the makeup work was stellar. I loved the way they made him look like a not human automaton. And there's a lot of suspension of disbelief in Doctor Who. To everyone listening, I'm going to do this for every episode, both classic and modern. This is not even the ones I love.
Never be certain of anything. It's a sign of weakness.
But to that point about suspension of disbelief, you know, that's something that Doctor Who is known for, not just as science fiction, but also within its own production identity. So, for example, in this episode, they're saying not only are we going to ask you as the audience to believe in living mannequins, but we're going to make sure that you hear about something called antiplastic, which is going to be this sort of deus ex machina, this turnkey solution to stop the Autons in case everything goes wrong.
Anti-plastic. But first I've got to find it.
Which I find very funny because they say it just right off the cuff. They're just like, anti-plastic. And it's like, that probably sounded more like Arnold Schwarzenegger than Christopher Eccleston. Which, how are we going to stop the Autons? Oh, we have anti-plastic. But I the way they say it, it's like, accept it. It's in a plastic, you know, test tube, and it's a blue liquid, and this is going to save everything. And that's, to me, the simplicity, the beautiful simplicity of adventure sci-fi. It's like, look, he has technology and knowledge that you will never understand. So just roll with it.
There's one thing you never, ever put in a trap.
Rose and the Doctor's dynamic, especially after he rips the Auton Mickey's head off in the restaurant.
Don't think that's going to stop me.
It starts to really break into that whole idea of Rose is a human being that's never gone anywhere. And he is an alien who goes about things almost in a by the numbers way, depending on the situation. He knows in order to save the maximum number of people, I have to do this, 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 and this, and not be distracted by this or this or that. And she is still very emotionally driven because she has no idea what's going on. And there's that moment where she says, does this mean that Mickey is dead?
Did they kill him, Mickey?
Oh, I didn't think of that.
How can you be so cavalier about that? Why don't you care?
I'll have to tell his mother he's dead and you just went and forgot him again.
I know that we had interactions like that in the past, somewhat with Ace and the Doctor, especially because they were trying to enrich the companion dynamic at that point, right before the show ended. And sometimes they had interactions like that with other Doctor companion combos. But that scene to me really started to establish that between the mother being included, the boyfriend being included, her daily life with her job, and now all of her thoughts coming out about humans versus this Gallifreyan Time Lord and the way they think and the way they act. This was going to be a much different launching pad for the Doctor companion relationship. It really hit me in that scene, how that was going to play out. What do you think of the modern companion dynamics established by Rose and the Doctor versus the classic one?
You were useless in there. You'd be dead if it wasn't for me.
Yes, I would.
I think they went with a different direction than they did in the classics.
Oh, no.
Where you learn more about the companion. It was almost like in the classics, like, okay, the companion is here and
I promise I'll get you back to Earth just as soon as I can.
What does he mean, back to Earth?
that's all there is. Here you kind of learn a little bit more, and then they kind of come together where they end up later on in the TARDIS together. They just keep filling up the TARDIS with more people.
I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the moment that happens right after that, where they run out into the alley and she's like, we got to keep running. And he's like, we'll just run into this box.
Tell you what, let's go in here.
Can't I decide a wooden box?
And then she does finally run in and sees the interior, but we as the audience don't get to see the interior immediately. Mm-hmm. And she runs back out, runs around the box. Yeah. I thought that was one of the best edited, best conceived moments of the whole episode. I absolutely loved the way they filmed it. I loved the way she was, understandably resistant to the idea of cornering herself in a phone booth when these things that have she thinks have killed her boyfriend are and blown up a retail store are coming after her. I thought that was so well done. What did you think of the new TARDIS interior? What did you think of that?
It was a very different variation to what we're used to, between the round things and the very kind of condensed console. Now they've kind of expanded it a little more. You got the, different style and different colors. I don't know, the older TARDISes, it was like a very neutral style color. At least now here we have a variety of colors, and it's actually bigger than, most of the console rooms that we're used to from the classics. So I think, RTD wanted to kind of give a modern day spin on it, to give a different view to newer fans coming on opposed to the classics. And I enjoyed the way it looked. It looked very, I don't want to say like rundown, but it was like, it kind of looked like it was just like a whole hodgepodge of things thrown together of wires and hoses and knobs and all kinds of oddball things that kind of continued on through the rest of the modern day series.
You've redecorated.
Do you like it?
I preferred it as it was, but, yeah.
You let this place go a bit.
It's his grunge phase. He grows out of it. Don't you listen to them.
I don't know if junk style is the right word, but you have all these weird knobs and levers and contraptions and all kinds of weird things all combined into this console. So it kind of gives it a, variety.
Are you alien?
Yes. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Which I thought was a really interesting reaction to have. Unless I have that wrong. She did say that doesn't really bother her, if I recall. And I guess maybe that's because she's lived this really boring life. So, and it's very dissatisfying. So anything new for her is going to be, great. She'll just take it as it comes, which I thought was a pretty interesting character choice and a writing choice.
That's okay. Culture shock. Happens to the best of us.
I do feel like the joke with the London Eye being the antenna, it was a little over-indexed. It was like, I think we could have gotten it after 1 or 2 exchanges. I don't think we needed 3 or 4.
Like a dish, like a wheel, radial, close to where we're standing. Must be completely invisible. What? What? What is it? What?
If I was feeling enterprising and had a lot of free time, I could probably just re-edit that moment to illustrate what I'm talking about. As a matter of fact, that's what I'm going to do right now.
Like a dish, like a wheel, radial, close to where we're standing. Must be completely invisible. What? Oh.
Now we're in the bowels of this, I guess, bridge or the London Eye or something along those lines. It's the inner workings underneath this construct, under the streets of London. And we find the conscience of the Autons, and he's got the anti-plastic as a contingency. They find that Mickey is alive and being extra wussy and tied up to this railing. I liked the scope that they put into this scene where he makes a formal request based on certain regulation to have an audience with the leader of this Auton force and negotiate with them for a tactical withdrawal from the planet Earth, and talking about all of the laws they violated, intergalactic laws and stuff like that.
According to Convention 15 of the Shadow Proclamation,
Seeding a level 5 planet is against galactic law.
However, the classic episodes really indexed a lot on the Doctor being a castaway, being a fugitive, being somebody who broke with the establishment, who ran off, and they've always had problems with him. I mean, the War Games, Trial of a Time Lord, all those things are all part of that.
For that reason, you will be sent back to that planet. Oh, good. In exile.
For I will not tolerate this continual interference in my life.
Has been guilty of conduct unbecoming a Time Lord.
Not guilty!
And here, even though we have this thinly veiled reference to, we got to get into that, this thinly veiled reference to things that happened in the past that the Doctor's not willing to talk about yet.
Not true. I should know. I was there. I fought in the war. It wasn't my fault.
He seems to still be, in this episode, very much operating for the benefit of the broader establishment. Or maybe I'm just reading the scene wrong. Maybe he's just operating for the greater good while using the laws of the galaxy to try and gain extra leverage. What do you think?
I'm asking you on their behalf. Please, just go.
The Doctor was always there to protect people, and I think he was just trying to give the consciousness a chance to say, hey, you need to back off. These people are protected, which we see more of that later on as we go through it. I felt that he had a sense of compassion, say, hey, look, I'm giving you the opportunity to pack up and go home before things get really out of hand.
What do you think of the Autons as villains? Just in the broadest sense, with your experience with Doctor Who, what do you think of them as a concept?
I think it's an interesting concept. I know we've seen it in the past, and it was nice to come back to start off a modern day with a classic villain.
Now.
As a starting villain for the new series, I think it was a good choice.
I thought it was interesting that Russell T Davies decided to mirror the Spearhead from Space rejuvenation of the show in 1970, which introduced the third Doctor as well as the Autons for the first time.
Yeah.
And he's decided to lean on that. That was the first time the show was in color. That entire story was shot on film. It was a big refresh of the series.
Child's play. The only trouble is, Lethbridge Stewart has taken away the key and I can't get inside.
And this, too, is a big refresh and relaunch of the series. And he's like, but I'm going to mirror by bringing the Autons into this one as well for this relaunch.
Rob.
I found that very savvy on Russell T Davies' part. They're not the most well-known villain, but they're also not completely unknown. They're a more grounded villain in the sense that every modern audience that's never seen Doctor Who, who's watching in 2005, they're probably, younger people, teens, and they know what a mannequin is in a shop window. Having Billie Piper playing the companion, and Billie Piper had been a radio star. Having her in it, and then also saying, and by the way, all of you who are into buying clothes and fashion, watch these mannequins come to life and try and kill one of your favorite pop stars. It's like, wow, the anti-plastic goes into the consciousness and destroys it, and they get out of there. Mickey is still being just as shaggy as ever, oh, let's get out of here. The Doctor offers Rose a place on the TARDIS. And initially she declines.
Yeah, I can't.
Okay. See you around.
And then, of course, he comes back.
Did I mention it also travels in time?
And she just decides, even though this guy is quaking in his boots at my feet, literally holding me around the waist, and scared out of his mind, this boyfriend of hers, I'm going to leave him in a dark alley in the middle of the night and just run off with this guy in this disappearing box. I think it's great because I know who the Doctor is. And I don't think the Doctor is a threat to her at all because I know who the Doctor is. What I find funny, though, is the companion dynamic where she's like,
Thanks.
Thanks for what?
Exactly.
When rewatching it, I just thought for a second that if the right viewer was watching with the wrong perception, that might give them a negative attitude of Rose as a character. But maybe I'm just being, overly cautious in that respect. I get the intent of the scene, which is to say that the Doctor is such a fascinating entity. The thrill of adventure, the call to adventure can be so great that you just drop everything and seize the moment.
You could stay here, fill your life with work and food and sleep, or you could go anywhere.
I get that. But it's one thing to seize the moment when everything is pretty much normal. It's another thing to seize the moment when you've just saved your boyfriend from being killed after he's been cloned. He's seen things he can't even describe. Selfish as the guy is, self-absorbed and wimpy as he is. It's nighttime in a dark alley in the middle of God knows where in the city. And you're like, hey, you know what? I'm gone with this guy. It's been great. I'm gone. I'll see you when I see you.
I mean, you definitely could have got the wrong impression depending on how you look at it. The way I looked at it was, she has a very boring life. There is Mickey, but I don't know. To me, it seems almost kind of, fake, I guess. It doesn't seem like they were all that serious to begin with. That's the impression I got. I could be wrong, but she was just looking for an opportunity to take some chances in her life. And she looked at it as the doctor was an opportunity to do that, to be able to travel. That's the perspective I took on it. But yeah, what you're saying does make sense. It was a risky move, but it seemed to pay off, though.
You tell me, where do you want to go? Backwards or forwards in time?
But where does Rose rank for you overall? I mean, do you think it's, a really good start? Do you think it's an okay start? How does it rank for you as far as launching not only this show, but launching this Doctor?
To me, overall, if we classify it in just his series alone, I would put it kind of like somewhere about the middle of the pack. It was a good introductory episode, but for what we see later on, throughout the season, it was about the middle of the road for me.
I find it to be a nice introduction with a few good moments. I watch it more for Eccleston than anything else.
So, may I suggest with the greatest respect that you shunt off?
I watch it for his character moments, like the hello, and all that kind of stuff to really get a sense of who he is and what his personality is going to bring to the show. I think the episode is serviceable, but I'm with you. I don't think it's the strongest episode in the show. I certainly don't think it's the weakest. So what's up next?
Well, next we are going right back to the beginning again in the second story of the William Hartnell series, The Daleks. That will be our next episode or episodes that we'll be covering.
Please, can't we get out of here?
Ah, but the city, I must see the city.
But why?
I would not be questioned.
Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.